So glad you are with us on Elevate Your Wealth. Brad Johansson, along with the boys, the men, the myth, the legends, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Gentlemen, nice to be back with you.
Oh, it's great to see you, Brad. It feels like it's been forever since we saw you
It
last.
has been too long.
Yeah.
You folks probably don't feel that way, but it has been too long for us as we've gotten back together. We're glad to be with you, and we're glad you spend time with us. So thank you for making this an appointment for you. We always like in these programs to kind of bring it out into you where it's relevant. It's something that's going on that you get a sense of, yeah, I understand where we are with this. Can I start with like a Costco story? Mm-hmm. Even in this, and there are a lot of things I like about Costco.
Oh, yeah.
Just to mention, whenever we have birthdays, it's a Costco birthday cake. Mm-hmm. I hope you guys have gone to the vanilla Costco birthday cake, but I digress. Costco recession signal goes viral. We can go back to 2023 on something like this, but it's a lot of it is cost of goods and how we decide we're going to spend on those cost of goods. Mm-hmm. And then we look back in history and say, oh, when this happened before, then we hit a recession. Or then something else happened. I want to take me to some of these comments, Casey, that were made with this and why it kind of created viral. Because, look, we've had 3 years of the market going double digits, mm-hmm. and it's all good. So we go recency bias, right. It's always going to be good. Except there's always a fear. When it's going this good, we had a crash right in front of us. Mm-hmm. Relate this to the whole Costco thing, if you could, please.
Yeah, so, the Costco story is interesting, and it's something that, as you said, actually dates back to 2023. So very recently, it's come up, and it's been kind of a viral conversation. We see it a lot, that Costco indicated on a shareholders call, on an investors call, that precursor to a recession, they would see people switching from buying beef to buying chicken, to more cost-effective proteins. And so they've seen that over multiple recessions in the past.
Because the cost of beef went so high that people just adjusted.
Right, and people are concerned, and so they're dialing back what they're spending on, and they're going to something more, or less costly, I should say. So switching from beef to chicken. And so they've seen that recently, and that's what has started this concern. And so those comments actually come from 2023. It's not something that was stated last week. It's actually from a few years ago. But for us, it's really interesting because, of course, we're always looking at what's going on in the market. Yeah. And we ourselves are curious about indicators that are not necessarily mainstream indicators of what's going on, right? A lot of folks like to talk about jobs reports and inflation and things like that. That's in the news all the time. But there are other things that we can pay attention to. And so this type of thought is interesting to us. But at the same time, we want to be cautious that we don't let this drive every decision that we make. This singular piece of information should not completely alter our retirement plan. And so we see kind of two sides to this, where people are very nervous because this has become a topic of conversation. Sure. And of course, because of where the market's at and the economy is at. But at the same time, it's a plan that allows us to be successful overall.
Aren't we in danger of that, Mark, especially in this generation now, where the media was at once a trusted source, very untrusted source right now. And now everyone is in the media. We're all reporters in the viral sense, and whatever we choose to believe on our feed then becomes part of this. Is this talking to the psychological effect that we have in financial, where once we get a feeling about something and we hear a little bit about something, we got to go and we got to do something without something founded? To Casey's point, do we have a plan?
Yeah, I think what we're talking about here, you mentioned there's a lot of fake news happening right now, and it's who do we trust, right? As Casey was just mentioning, Costco, I mean, inflation is on everybody's mind right now. So the question is, do we have a plan to be able to address this? If you're living on a fixed income, we know how this has hurting people in Seattle. And we know all over the country it is. But I know Casey drives a big old truck, and he's looking at $7 a gallon to fill that beast, okay, because he drives, puts diesel in it. I know what it costs to put in my car. We're at $6 a gallon for just regular, not even Supreme, right, when it comes to gasoline. And so the beef prices, coffee, all of these things, this is a concern for people that are living on a fixed income and a fixed budget. And I think if you don't have a plan to deal with inflation, when inflation is, going up like it is right now, we have got to address that, because if you don't, your income, we know that with the cost of a basket of goods a year from now is going to be greater than it is today. So it's something we all need to be thinking about and having a plan for.
You mentioned something too, Brad, about a recency bias, right?
Yeah.
And that recency bias is real. I mean, we've seen the market have phenomenal years, and there are so many people that are just under the belief that that's going to continue on, right? Sure. And it's kind of the same with the media, where what will happen is people will see a news story that supports a thought that they already have. And so that's the news story that they glom onto, right? There might be 3 or 4 other news stories that kind of fight that thinking, but because they have this thought, they anchor to it, and they, instead of kind of keeping an open mind about what's going on, people will kind of anchor to this singular thought that they already have. And that's really what kind of caught our attention about this idea with Costco, is that we see folks that are kind of perpetually screaming doomsday for the market, right?
Sure. Yeah.
They're always there. And you know what? When the market falls, they're right. But there's also people that are saying the market's it's going to continue on. It always does well. Keep your money invested. Don't sell. It's only a paper loss, right? And so when the market does well, those people are right. And the point really is that we're not here trying to predict what's going to happen. What we're trying to do is figure out, how do we make sure someone's successful despite what happens? That's really the key behind this conversation.
Well, the number on your screen is there for a reason. It is putting together a comprehensive written financial plan for you, and making that phone call to 888-342-7142. I'll leave that there for you, because I think for a lot of you tuning in, you say, can I get an appointment, because I'm starting to get a little bit anxious, and maybe today is that day as we go through it. We're changing. When you move into the retirement red zone, this is different than 40 years of accumulation, where we're working on something and go, holy, you guys are talking about inflation stuff. My advisor never talked about inflation, just said stay in the market, but buy and hold, and we're doing all of this. Why is this now changing and building into a plan that we're encouraging people to call and say, you need a plan? Why is inflation so important within this? Not just now, but you've built a number that you've got to have as an income for now. What is that going to be in 30 years?
Right, exactly. This is what for Casey and I, we run our inflation factor at about 2.5%, right? And it's amazing if a client, let's say starts and says, Mark, we need $100,000, and if we only inflate at 2.5%, it's incredible what that number is only 5 years down the road. And you just mentioned, what is that going to be 30 years down the road if we only use 2.5%? Because when we tweak it just a little bit and we only add 0.5%, it's amazing how that affects things. So again, you have to have a plan like we're talking about that addresses inflation. And because if you don't, your money is not going to last. You're going to be stressing that portfolio so much. That's why we believe so much in making sure that the fixed things that are needed each month or however we want to look at it, year is taken care of on a guaranteed basis, right? And then we have to factor in inflation. And that's why we have the red, yellow, green buckets in our office, because our red bucket is the money that's going to help us to grow and to deal with inflation in the future. But it's just, you need to have a plan. That's what this is all boiling down to.
This is multi-factored, meaning that there are a lot of pieces, and then it becomes a domino effect that if you miss one of the pieces, you've probably got a recurring problem, which is why we're encouraging you to call 844-342-7142. If you'd like, simply your phone adverse, you can use your phone to scan the QR code. Okay, I'll set up my own appointment. Maybe I just want a 15-minute call just to see whether or not I'm in the right place. Maybe this is just a second opinion call. I'd just like to kind of find out. That's all offered here. That when you're hearing the noise, is it real? And do I have a plan to work myself through this so I have money until my last breath? 844-342-7142. More after this.
It's actually a pretty interesting story. My mom actually worked for a group of financial planners, and she'd worked for them since before I was born. Ultimately, I ended up working in industrial process control and instrumentation, which to most people means nothing and honestly sounds kind of boring, but it's pretty interesting. You get to see all the equipment that allows factories to make the things that they make. But as I was going through that, my wife got sick. And what I found was that nobody had answers about what the best route was medically to make sure that insurance was going to cover what we needed, that she could get the care that she needed. And so I realized that that industry really is broken, right? There really isn't the care, and there's not somebody that you can lean on to help you make the right decisions. And so as time went on, what I found too is I've got a natural aptitude for finances, and a lot of my coworkers would come to me and ask me questions about how they should invest and what to do with their 401k, because it was something that I kind of naturally was involved with in my own way. As time went on, I found a way to be able to do that. I saved, I went back to school, and ultimately, Mark and I formed Elevated Financial Management, and here we are doing things, like I said, just a little bit different in Seattle.
So glad you're with us on Elevate Your Wealth, Elevated Financial Management. Casey and Mark are with me, and we talked a little bit about the Costco recession signal that was actually years ago, but is now coming back up. And what do you believe? What is real? I want to get into maybe some open-ended questions with the guys about what we should understand. And we're launching planning conversations. We're going to push planning, because if you don't, the understanding is that you have to be flexible as it moves forward. There is no plan that is set it and forget it for 30 years of life change, especially as you get into those retirement ages. So the number is up on your screen if you want to call for an appointment. I want to start out with, as we build this retirement plan, what do you guys see as the piece that is most often thought of as, oh, I've got this covered, but they don't?
You know, I know what I think of. I'm curious to hear what you think of, Mark.
I think at question number 3, that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, you know, I think the biggest thing that it seems to be that people think they have a handle on is how much income they're going to need in retirement. Yeah. And yet we find often when we start discussing what income should look like in retirement, the number starts to climb.
Is it because we haven't put it down on paper? This is that budget thing where we go, I know what's coming in, I know what's going out, kind of.
Right.
Have you ever put it down? No. Do you know what your lifestyle is going to be? Well, I think, meaning, this is why we're talking about a written plan.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of it, right? Where people have not truly sat down to figure that out. And you know what? In reality, it's not fun to figure out a budget. We all know that, right? Yeah. But the thing is we have to change that conversation. The budget doesn't have to be a limiting factor. The budget can build in the fun spending money that you want. So there is a difference between the essentials and the discretionary. So there's the essential of, well, I have to pay my mortgage and I have insurance and I have to pay my car and all these different things. Those aren't the fun, that's not fun money, right? But we can build in the fun money as well. Well, I'd like to travel and we like to eat out and I'd like to take my grandkids with me and whatever those things are. But oftentimes when we start talking about the budget, Brad, it's so interesting. People have this natural tendency to kind of try and figure out, well, you know, I guess I could live on, you know, maybe $4,000 a month or maybe $5,000, and I think that'd be okay. I think I could make it work on that. Well, that's not what the golden years are supposed to be about, right? So maybe you can live on that, but let's figure out a way, can we get you more than that? Can we make sure that we build in that fun money? Because the biggest thing that we see, and I know we're on the same page about this, Mark, we see this constantly, where people find a way to pare their lives down to simply what their income is. So, and we've all done it, right? When we first start out, we make $30,000 or $40,000, and that's what we live on. That's the best that we can do at the time.
But nobody wants to take a pay cut in retirement.
Exactly, right? And then as you start out on that, and then as life goes on, you make $60,000. Well, you don't save 30,000, right? You just end up living on 60, right? And that's really the reality of it as we go through. And even into retirement, it's nice to figure out what you're living on now and what you're actually spending, and then see, can we maybe even get you a little bit more? Because two things change when you move into retirement. You have more time and you have less income, right? It's our job to help you get more income. It's your job to figure out what you want to do with that extra time. And I don't know about you, but when I have more time, I like to go do more things, and that generally costs more money.
That's usually spending, yes.
I think this is a really good time to share a recent story. We've been working with a client on a sophisticated life insurance planning because of some estate tax issues. But I think what's cool about this is an attorney client, and the wife has a CPA. And so we were going through their budget. Now, she set a pretty high bar for a pretty decent budget, okay?
Okay.
And she started wanting $50,000 a year for their travel. Okay, that can be decent travel, right?
That's some travel.
That's some good travel.
Exactly. Well, before it was all said and done, we doubled that to $100,000 a year just for travel. And so, again, it's about what Casey was talking about. People will pare their life down, but now she's so excited to know that the income that she wants is going to be guaranteed. The freedom for her that she just told us about this a few days ago. She doesn't have to think about it now. She doesn't have to worry about what stock she's going to sell and the capital gains and all of that, all because she's put this into a guaranteed income source. And they're off to the races now, and they are very excited. And I tell you, I don't know about you in the crowd, but if you've got a $100,000 budget for travel, you're going to be able to have a lot I
Goodness gracious me, oh my. You know where the money's coming from.
Yep.
That's the whole idea of
key.
the plan. Should I go back to you? Because you pinpointed this. For business owners heading toward retirement, how should the value of that business be worked into the income plan? You said, well, I'm looking at this. Why is that so significant for you?
And this is a problem because I've got some dear friends that own businesses and their children are involved, but it's how to find so many business owners, small business owners, they don't have an exit strategy. And it's really hard because it's hard sometimes to get a value for that business. And so a lot of them, they get paralyzed and they continue to not get out. Like I've got a dear friend, and neither one of the two sons that are going to take over the business, they can't really buy them out. So there's no way for the couple, the owners of the company that started everything, to basically be able to retire yet. And so business owners, you face a challenge. And it's something that we would love to try and help, but it's not an easy small business owners have a very unique planning situation that a lot of times it's not easy to solve. It takes a lot of work. So it's just something where, again, you need to start developing a plan. How do I get out of my business with what I need to enjoy a wonderful, happy retirement?
This is really interesting. So one of my uncles had a very successful business in Spokane, Washington. And he sold the business to the employees. They took it over, and he gets a few years into retirement, and things are not going very well for the business. And he thought that he had done good planning with them to help them take over. They were really running the business by the time that he left, but through some poor decisions and mismanagement, the business ended up kind of suffering. And so they reached out to him, and he ended up coming back to help get it back on track. So he kind of came out of retirement for that. And really what you're talking about, Mark, is so true. A lot of these small businesses don't have a good exit strategy. Yeah. It's hard to get a good evaluation. It's hard to feel like you're leaving your baby, right? I mean, you spent your life most likely building this business, and you probably didn't build it with an exit strategy from day one. That's only been in recent years. And so we see a lot of people hang on to businesses probably longer than they should, out of fear of not knowing what's going to happen to that business when they leave. And that's admirable, right? I mean, it really is. They want to make sure their clients are taken care of, the employees are taken care of, but at a certain point, a conversation has to be had to figure out how you make sure that you're taken care of as well. And that is part of the planning that we do at Elevated, and it's more complicated. There's more pieces, right? You mentioned a puzzle earlier. There's different things to fit together, but that doesn't mean that it can't be done, but it does start with a conversation to make it happen.
And this client is adjusting, and you're going to adjust, because my goodness, how often do we know I got my plan. And how often does that plan go exactly the way you thought it was going to go? You're going to have to adjust. I've got a lot more questions to get to, but you need to take this time, 844-342-7142. It is a complimentary written financial plan for you. At the other end of the line, it's let's just get together and talk. And I'm worried about where I'm going. And I'd like to do it without spending any money. I'd just like to spend some time trying to figure this out. This is for you. 844-342-7142. Let's get together and chat about that. There are probably more questions you have. I've got a few for you when we return.
At first, I thought I was going to become an iron worker. And after I graduated from high school, I drove from Virginia out to Wyoming, where my dad was at. My parents had just got divorced. And I watched my grandfather on my dad's side. My grandfather got Alzheimer's and spent the last several years of his life in a nursing facility. And I watched them be devastated at the cost at the time, because they didn't have any insurance and that created a real problem for them. They lost the bulk of their assets, liquid assets. They were able to retain the farm back in Iowa, but it taught me a lesson that I don't want to ever go through that. I don't want my children to have to go through this. And so I met an individual at an event that I was doing, a party basically at his house, and he invited me to come to his house the next day. And I decided to check it out. And he said, Mark, you would be very good at this. And it was basically in the long-term care business, Medicare and Medicaid planning to a certain degree. So I help people get Medicare figured out, but then it also spurred me into the long-term care field as well. So again, that's really how I got into this business to begin with.
You got it all figured out, right? I mean, that's why you're here. We're asking some of the open-ended questions of trying to figure the end of this thing out. Is it easier for me to set this up by saying, people walk in and go, I'm ready to be done. Okay, fantastic. What are you going to do? I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to be done. Is it fair to say that happens quite often?
It does. Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. Casey and I, we pride ourselves because it's not just about the money. I hope our viewers understand and know that we care about this, but if you don't really think about maybe what we would call the third act, right? Instead of retiring from something, how about retiring to something, right? And we just have found that clients that have thought about this and made kind of a plan or had some additional goals, whether maybe they go back to school a little bit, or they find a part-time job that they just love. Those that tend to want to stay busier and volunteer, whatever it may be, those clients seem to do so much better than ones that just think they're going to ride off into the sunset or play golf 5 or 6 days a week. That might work for about a week or two, but then what, right? So again, and I love golf. You'd think you could play, that much golf, but it's going to lead to boredom and a lot of depression. People don't realize when we leave something like a job where our social life is tied up with our workmates and our routines, they have no idea until that's gone what is truly missing. And we talk with clients about this. They bring it up with it. I'll never forget a client that came in 2 weeks after she retired, and she said, I had no idea what a struggle this was going to be, and wanted us to help her figure out what to do. And so it's very real. So the emotional part of retirement is something that has to be talked about and dealt with, and you're not going to do that and get that usually from the big wirehouses.
Yeah, I know you'd love to play golf every day if you could. For me, that'd be an expensive endeavor with how many balls I lose. I'm no good out there, but that sounds more spendy than anything. But I think that's the truth of it. Really, is we see that a lot where folks have not quite figured out how they want to spend their time, and I really think that the financial world has done a disservice to the retiree, because it does seem to always come back to the dollars. And you know what? I mean, it is finance, right? We have to have the money to retire, but the money is supposed to serve a purpose. There's supposed to be a goal behind what those funds are going to do for you. And that's to fill an emotional need. That's to fill something in your life that you want to accomplish. And it could be as simple as just spending time in your garden and enjoying the sunset, or it could be traveling the world with your best friend or your partner. That's totally up to you to decide. But that's that's the most important piece of retirement planning, is figuring out how you actually want to spend the time. Because you know what, even though work might be stressful, it might be difficult, it does give us a sense of purpose. It does.
It's
give
our
us,
identity.
Yeah, it can be our identity. It can give us a sense of accomplishment. Many people do define themselves by their work. And so to just stop all of that on a random Friday when you turn 65, and then now you just move into retirement without anything else that brings you purpose or enjoyment or satisfaction or identity, as you said, Brad, that is a shocking thing for people to experience. And so it's really, really important that retirement plan is designed around accomplishing exactly what you want to do with your time.
Give me an idea very quickly, Mark, because people want to know what to expect. All right, I'll call. I'll put together an appointment. What do they expect when they walk into the office? And say,
yeah, so please, if you're listening, pick up the phone, give us a call. Maybe you're getting ready to retire from Boeing or Weyerhaeuser. You're getting very close. You could be several years out. We would just say this, even if you're several years out, give us a call, because those that have more runway and come in, we can begin to develop a plan with you. Not for you, but with you. We're going to look at taxes. We're going to then look at what are you going to do for a guaranteed income source? What do I do with Medicare? Do I go with the Med Sup or Med Advantage plan? And what about legacy? How do I leave money the best way to my children? So please, give us a call. Pick up your phone, call 844-342-7142. Let us help. Just give us a call. That's 844-342-7142.
It is a holistic plan. I said it before, it's a domino effect. If you miss some of these things, what is it going to do 20, 30 years down the road? It is a complementary plan, a financial written plan to give you an idea that you know is going to change. Have you started to get an idea of what that next chapter is going to be? Maybe you need some help just moving forward on that. That's what we're here for, 844-342-7142. Use your time for yourself. We can't wait to see you in the office and put this together for you. We're grateful you spent time here. And you know where we'll be, right back here next time on Elevate Your Wealth.